streaks of gold above a lotus sea. An architect's logic and a craftsman's prayer. Heavy metals floating where the shadows flee. A rooftop crown suspended in the summer air. Jade slabs on the floor to keep the fever out. Cool veins of white beneath the heat of day. Wisdom wasn't built for a king to doubt. It was made to glisten 40 lie away. The master of the clouds and the spinning wheel, writing ancient echoes in the copper and the steel. Chang'an breathes in rhythm with the moving parts, where the weight of empire meets the lightness of the arts. Copper cranes on golden poles with hollow pipes. A storm's breath drawn from hidden water wheels. Before the dark horizon fills with jagged stripes. Before the dark horizon fills with jagged stripes. The metal lungs tell them how the pressure feels. They flap their wings to the rhythm of the rising gale. Mechanical prophets whistling a humid tune. He watched the weather through a silver-wired veil, predicting tomorrow by the turning of the moon. A carriage crossing life for a single taste. A single taste. From the southern vines to where the court could see. The court could see. Time and distance were a thing he could erase, for the one who held the key to the empire's energy. Rainbow skirts and a feathered dress for the eyes. A legacy in roses and the peanuties bloom, turning every shadow into bright surprises, clearing out the silence in the crowded room. 1500 years and the echoes linger on in the stones of the underground city. The gold is gone. The order of the sky is reflected in the street, a story that the centuries will never quite complete.
During the Tang Dynasty, an era historians call the Golden Age of Chinese civilization, Emperor Xuanzong erected something at his summer residence that surpassed the imagination of his contemporaries. The Golden Pavilion, standing in the middle of a man-made lake overgrown with lotuses. This structure was a masterpiece of both architecture and 8th century engineering. The feat of the craftsmen of that time lay in their ability to combine the lightness of wooden architecture with the weight of precious metals. The pavilion's roof was covered with plates of pure gold, which shone so brightly in the rays of the setting sun that their brilliance was visible for dozens of li from the imperial park. Xuanzong's intellect was evident in his passion for mechanics and music. Inside the pavilion, the floors were lined with slabs of rare white jade, which remained cool even in the most intense heat. However, the main secret of this place was the mechanical birds perched on golden poles around the perimeter of the terrace. These copper nightingales and cranes were connected by hidden pipes to a system of water wheels operating beneath the pavilion's foundation. The engineer's achievement was the creation of the world's first automatic weather prediction system. When the wind changed direction and air humidity rose before a storm, the pressure in the pipes shifted, causing the mechanical birds to flap their wings and emit specific whistling sounds, warning the emperor of an approaching gale. Xuanzong's primary legacy in history was his patronage of the arts and sciences, which transformed Chang'an into the most populous and enlightened city in the world at that time. In the Golden Pavilion, he received poets such as Li Bai and Du Fu, whose intellect and gift of words were valued more highly than gold. The emperor himself was a virtuoso musician and composer who created the famous melody rainbow skirt and feathered dress. The renowned gardens of Beijing and the roses of Guangzhou trace their lineage back to the very parks Xuanzong laid out around his palaces, ordering the planting of rare peony varieties brought from the furthest corners of the Celestial Empire. His favorite consort, Yang Fei, was famous for her incredible beauty and refined taste. Her feat was creating an atmosphere of high aesthetics at court. She introduced fashions for specific hairstyles and fragrances that were later copied throughout the East. This woman's intellect allowed her to participate as an equal in discussions of state affairs, and her influence on the emperor was so great that for her whim, fresh lychee fruit, the fastest horse courier service in history was established, delivering fruit from the south of the country across thousands of li in just a few days. The emperor's children were raised surrounded by these mechanical wonders and great poets. They studied not only military affairs, but also astronomy, calligraphy, and the Qian. The triumph of the Tang Dynasty was their creation of the image of the ideal ruler, an enlightened monarch who values peace and harmony above territorial conquest. During these years, the Great Wall of China served as little more than a formal border, as the empire's power rested on its cultural superiority and flourishing trade along the Silk Road. The Golden Pavilion was a place where time seemed to stand still. The jade floors reflected the light of the lamps, and the mechanical birds sang in unison with the real nightingales in the garden. The emperor lived a long life full of both great triumphs and bitter losses, but his legacy in art and science remained steadfast. The feat of the Tang Dynasty masters was the creation of beauty that does not fear the passing centuries. The history of China is an endless stream where the underground palaces of Xi'an, the stones of Longmen, and the golden roofs of Chang'an are linked by the will of great people. It is a narrative of a nation that built its cities as a reflection of celestial order. The intellect of those rulers allowed them to see beyond the horizon of events, creating things that still inspire awe 1,500 years later.